Welcome, class, to Module 3. This is going to contain weeks 6, 7, and 8. We're going to look at the years 1848 to 1930, and we're going to watch a couple of interesting films in this module as well. So I'm excited. I like this module a lot. But week 6 is going to first discuss some of the violence that existed against Mexican Americans, which is the basis for a story, a legend, about a guy named Joaquin Murrieta. And you may know him better as Zorro, which is eventually what that legend goes on to inform this story, Zorro. So we're going to read some pretty heavy articles that are going to deal with the lynching of Mexican Americans and Mexicans, which is an ugly part of history, but something that I think we need to discuss and be informed about. But in week 6, we're going to look at some of the historical information about lynching and violence that was carried out against Mexicans and Mexican Americans. And that's really the context for what had happened with Joaquin Murrieta, who goes on to be this kind of vigilante, thought of as a Robin Hood type. And that information is what goes on to make the idea of Zorro. And so in week 7, we're going to watch The Mask of Zorro, the film with Antonio Banderas, and we're going to watch the documentary about the film that deals with the cast and the characters, and they talk about the sort of historical depth and meaning behind that. So, and then in week 8, we are going to look at a film called My Family, Mi Familia, which is an awesome film. I love it. And it starts in the 1920s, but it moves on forward in history. It's actually about 3 generations of the same family. So since this week we're covering 1848 to 1930, we're going to watch that film now because it touches on what life was like for these Mexican Americans in the 1920s and on up into the 70s and 80s, which we'll cover that through some films later in other modules too. But we'll also read an article in week 8 by Gabriel Carty, who has an article called Language, Space, and the Evolving Chicano Family in Neva's My Family, which is the film we'll watch. So we have 2 discussions this module in week 6. You have discussion 3.1, where you're going to specifically discuss who Joaquin Murrieta was, and if you'd ever heard of him, and if you had, then where, and if you hadn't, why do you think that is? It's kind of a pretty powerful story, so we'll have some opportunity to talk about that as a class. And always remember that you have to post a total of 3 times on every discussion, so I hope you know that by now. But you post your initial response to the prompt, and then you will reply to 2 classmates as well. Then we have discussion 3.2, which is going to be in week 8 of this module. And we're going to talk about that evolution of the Sanchez family that is in My Family, Mi Familia, and talk about what cultural traits and habits and things that are maintained and preserved, and which habits and traditions and cultural practices do they lose. I think this is true with every generation. We seem to grow a little farther away from our roots, as it were, and we hold on to some things, but we also lose some things, and we also start new traditions, and it's just part of the evolution of the family, but it's also a part of assimilation. If your roots are not American, Anglo-Saxon in a sense, there's a pressure for you to adapt. And how is that represented in film? That's what we're really wanting to see. We're wanting to see if that truth is captured. Are stereotypes played up? I mean, this is a constant theme in what we're going to analyze by looking at these films is what stereotypes are played up, what things are truly cultural norms and traditions, and what values are in place and retained and represented in film, and what values are played down, are negative values put into place that sort of say, these things are important to a certain group of people, and they may not be, but it might be a stereotype to say that is important to them. All these things we will consider. So at the end of Module 3, we will technically be at the middle of the course. So since we are at the midterm, we'll take a midterm exam. And this will cover everything that we've covered in the first 3 modules. All information in the course is fair game: films, documentaries, readings, and also in the deliverables for this module include a summary analysis, number 3, language, space, and the evolving Chicano family in Neva's My Family, Mi Familia. You'll write your summary analysis over that, or you can write about one of the articles about lynching, or you can choose from an article about Joaquin Murrieta and whether it's just literary fiction or historical fact. So you have 3 choices. Just do one, but you can choose from those 3. This covers week 6, 7, and 8, the years 1848 to 1930, and we're going to watch 2 films, 1 documentary. We'll have 2 discussions, a midterm exam, and you'll submit summary analysis number 3.